I've been talking to myself and I've been talking with no audio. Sorry, Frank. But you see, I already jinxed it. So anyway, good evening. Welcome to Live at RIA. And I am here. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you, K5YVY. That was nice. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of things behind the scenes. I've been contemplating what to do with some of my issues and stuff I've been having. I've been really trying to get the stuff together. So, yeah, I forgot to turn on the audio. I did let Frank. I saw that earlier. I'm so sorry. That was a total disaster. That was my worst nightmare. Back in the early days of the pandemic, which has mysteriously disappeared over the past few days for some reason, we I had the same set of problems in church when I was doing live streams there. And it was kind of, you kind of like the whole parish and the whole world, to be honest, depending on you. And then, yeah, so anyway. Yeah, so things hopefully getting better. We're going to have a good few things to talk about tonight. This is not going to be strictly about radio. This is, frankly, a lot of this is about, preparing yourself, make sure that you're taken care of. A lot of it's going to focus on portable power because a lot of you know that I've been doing stuff with portable power. And in particular, I've had a great partnership, and I still do have a great partnership with EcoFlow, who makes a lot of portable battery packs and solar generators. And I'm going to talk about how you could fit some of that into that. Yeah, Sweeney, Ed. So yeah, I've been kind of, I started up the media ministry at my church to stream the masses, and then we do so much more. We produce videos and do all sorts of video outreach. And some of the nicest thing was this morning in one of our parishioners, she put a comment in one of our live streams this morning on how she's so thankful because she was watching in the hospital with her husband because her husband was in the hospital. So that was nice. So anyway, right. So tonight we're talking. I watched Josh's live stream last night. I must say that how he covered a lot of things very well. I'll be covering some different things. There is some crossover and such like that. And some of this is going to be old hat for all you old radio people, and some of this is probably going to be brand new. But we're going to talk about, some of the situation going on in the world today and the possibilities and what you need to do to basically make sure that you are prepared, right? And I'm not that worried. I mean, I'm prepared for a lot of things, but I do my prepping a little differently. I don't hoard stuff, right? I don't stockpile years of commercially bought canned food. I don't buy worthless numismatic coins from ex-felons. Yeah, Gigi Liddy, I'm talking to you. I used to work at Fox News, okay? And I used to cringe every time I saw those ads because they have TVs all over the place playing. And, I prep differently. Oh, listen, let me tell you something, Grimace. I am officially an old radio person. You know why? This is my 25th year in amateur radio, okay? And you know what that means? It means I can join QCWA, the Quarter Century Wireless Association. So ever since I got licensed, I've been looking at the magazines and I see this old guy with a pipe in their ads and says, "Were you licensed 25 years ago?" And then I'm like, and then this year will be 25 years. I'm like, oh my God, I am that old. But anyway, yeah. So, yeah, Fauci's and witness protection. Okay, no comment. First of all, I definitely want to say that, our brothers and sisters in Ukraine, whoops, hey, this thing slid down here a little bit too much. There we go. our brothers and sisters in Ukraine definitely have it a lot worse than we do. I say a prayer for them every day, and well, we actually do have it in our prayer of the faithful. So we're always praying for our brothers and sisters in Ukraine, and quite frankly, everybody else that's affected by war. I wish this on no one. Vladimir Putin, kiss my ass. Okay, that's what I can say. I just, it's just heart wrenching. I have so many friends from Ukraine, and so QCWA seems like an eating event, Yeah. Hey, good evening from Sacramento. My late aunt used to live in Sacramento. Unfortunately, she passed away last year. Yeah, I got my license back in '97 in Trinidad and Tobago. So it's Trinidad and Tobago, land of steel pan, calypso, and limbo. Yeah, look, we do that. We do that. We always have some stuff. Yeah, demonetize. Okay. Yeah. you know, I don't know. I think YouTube will forgive me. Let me check actually to see if they actually did it, because by now I probably see the yellow dollar sign. As I usually submit the appeals right away. Yes. And yeah, but sometimes I don't care. I mean, let's see, monetization. No, it's still on. So anyway, they learned about me by now. I'm cool. Right, so tonight we're going to talk about a few things here. And let me bring this up here. All right, I have slides, but I'm not going to show you all the slides. I might actually do channel memberships and give people like full slides and stuff like that, which I think is probably a good idea, but not right now. And I know, there are some people telling me that how they want us live stream in this time slot and such like that. And that kind of upset me a little bit because, I mean, I do this, I'll be honest, I do this a little more than just for sharing the knowledge. It kind of helps me out a little bit, the situation I'm in. So I kind of, like to put effort into it. And I'm grateful that YouTube monetizes the channel because it does help. Right. So we have a full-blown war in Ukraine. We have with a nuclear-armed nation. Okay. And that is by far one of the biggest threats. And him and his foreign minister have made open threats against us, made open specific threats against the power grid. We also have fuel prices rising, right? And that's going to affect everybody. I drive an electric car, but, I'm not seeing the prices at the pump. I'm going to see them at this grocery store. I mean, there's really, really nothing avoiding that. On top of that, California and some states are banning gas generators. That's really lovely. And of course, the hurricane season is going to be coming up in June. So, it's going to be time to prepare for that as well. Right? And so, I'm going to cover a few things. I'm not going to cover everything. So let me show you exactly what we mean by an EMP. And let's see here. I could take away... it's not fake news. Fake news. I actually met Donald Trump back early on before he was president. Yeah. So by far the biggest threat, the biggest fear that people have is the fear of the electromagnetic pulse, right? And that kind of is on everybody's minds. Let me see if I could make this a little smaller so people could see it better. Okay, yeah. So you want to know something? EMPs don't actually just happen because of nuclear weapons. It also happens like naturally, right? Yeah, like lightning is an example of electromagnetic pulse. Like lightning might strike. Lightning doesn't have to strike your house directly. Thank you very much for the super chat and K5YVY. I really appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, so EMP occurs naturally and artificially. So it's a intense pulse of electromagnetic radiation. It's designed to overload your electronics, right? And some of them are as high as I believe the testing the government does is 50 kilovolts per meter. Okay, so 50,000 volts per meter. And then you can see here in this chart, they show you here the 5,000, 12,500, etc. They show you the various zones. So if a weapon detonates at over there, and then they'll tell you what it's like, in terms of like the the blast zone, how far away and how much you'll be affected. And usually how they do this is they blast at high, you know, high altitude, and because of that, I mean, it really it gets going. I'll show you how this works in the next slide. So generally, a nuclear detonation produces gamma rays, and then the atmosphere translates that to electromagnetic waves, and then, the same ionosphere that helps, propagate our radio waves, well, that kind of helps to create an EMP. And then, of course, systems within the line of sight will sustain damage. But, some people think this threat is overblown. I mean, there are several schools of thought on this, right? Back in the days of the Carrington event, and Plasma Storm, thank you very much for the $1 super chat. I really appreciate it. Hats off to you. I'm going to have my 10,000 celebration, so all you guys are going to be, getting some stuff. I want to give away. I have some stuff in the shack, actually, I need to blow out, too. And I'm getting some shirts made up and such like that, too. So, yeah. So, many think this threat is overblown. It's like, supposedly the grid, they've tested against this, and they've done a lot of bonding and grounding and, shielding and such like that. Frankly, I think that radioactive fallout and, a threat of annihilation is a bigger threat, But generally, up to 30,000 volts per meter is 30 kilovolts per meter is what we're looking at. You could still prepare, and, it's always good to see if you could prepare, And it's always good to have alternatives, and sometimes it's good to survive without electronics, okay? Because, there used to be a time, like back as like the 1980s, I'm telling you how old I am now, that we really didn't have much reliance on electronics. I mean, we could, like when the power went out, was no big deal. We stayed home, we played board games, we had the hurricane lamp going, and we just basically, we just had fun and had a good time. We had an old battery-powered TV that plugged into the car's cigarette lighter. Well, they call it cigarette lighter these days. The car's powered, had a black and white, 12 or 9-inch, 9-inch RCA TV. And, we survived, Our water was from a tank that was gravity fed, right? So we had the capability of gravity fed. We also had a water pump, but the gravity fed water was just fine. We could survive without that. We didn't have a water heater. We took cold showers. Of course, we didn't have winter. So that was, I guess, is a major differentiator. So I'm sure you've all seen this, but for those who haven't, right, you can make the poor man's Faraday cage, and the poor man's Faraday cage is usually in the form of a, let's see here. Brian, thank you very much for the super chat, Brian. That's amazing. Thank you. Wow, you guys are really nice tonight. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. The CME, yes. So that's what I meant by a natural EMP. Okay, the natural EMP is produced either from a CMP or lightning. EMP is not part of a nuclear bomb, so an EMP is caused by a nuclear weapon. Remember, a few slides back, I said that if you detonate at high altitude, what happens is it produces gamma rays, and that interacts with the atmosphere, ionosphere, and then that produces electromagnetic pulse down. So by the way, Cola Games is my son Adi. Okay, he's there. He kind of said, "Well, I'm giving up YouTube for Lent." I said, "No, you ain't. You watching every one of my live streams, okay?" So he's not. He decided to give up something else. Yeah. So everybody knows about the poor man's Faraday cage, but I'm going to mention it anyway, right? Oscar the Grouch lives in a bomb shelter, in a nuclear fallout shelter, in an EMP shelter. So you might as well take his lead, And the kind of, the idea here is that I have a few of these, that you can't really just throw stuff in the can and not cover it, and not even just halfway cover it, and expect it to be fully proof. You have to put the cover on. And then what you do is you put some aluminum tape around it, right? Or you tape some foil. The idea is to make sure the whole thing's conductive, and you have a whole conductive thing that's bonded together. Okay? And that will essentially give you a good enough shield against any electromagnetic pulse, whether it be lightning or natural or artificial. Then again, as Russ said, and Mike's Radio Repair with the $10 super chat, I really appreciate it. Wow, thank you. Thank you very much. You can see Site R from my house. In a nuclear war, I won't even have to kids' backside goodbye. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. People are making such a big deal about the EMP. They don't realize that, if a nuclear weapon detonates, I think it's going to be far worse than not being able to get on YouTube. I don't know. So, yeah. So you consider some aluminum tape around the edges, and I'm going to show you some things that you could put in there that will make it worth your while. But to be honest, Oscar leading the world, right? Yeah. But I'll show you what a professional one looks like, okay? So they're actually professional Faraday cages. And bonus points to anyone who tells me where this is from, okay? So this actually is at a very famous site here in the United States. And you can kind of see it in the background too, right? But this was a demonstration, a science demonstration to show the effects of radio wave interference, digital cameras in particular. There's a place in the United States where digital cameras are completely banned because they produce so much interference. But yeah, and this is a Faraday cage made out of copper screen. Now you notice that how they're very small. You say, hey, Ask Ive Solar. Thank you, Ive. Ive is my good friend who does solar and portable power stations. I'm going to be talking about some of that tonight. I've had a really nice live stream with his wife, and he just, was just chill. But I'm going to have him on the channel this week. I need to nail down a date and time. So, yeah. And Brian, yes, that is in the National Radio Quiet Zone. So in the main administration building of the Green Bank Telescope, they have the 7-Eleven. They have, they give you a whole demonstration before they take you down to the telescope. And there's a lady who basically shows you, and she has a spectrum analyzer there, and she shows you, what certain types of electronics would produce in terms of interference that would mess up their observations, right? So she has this Faraday cage, and she puts electronics inside it, and then, she's measuring with that too. So that's a very effective RF shield. An EMP is really just a high RF event, Lightning is an RF event, right? It's all electromagnetic waves. So basically you have a high electromagnetic induction into your devices. And this blocks against that. Okay. And let's see here. Hey, I'm not jinxing anything tonight. You see, this is a total contrast from last week. So another thing you can do to protect yourself is tubes. Okay, so I do this with a caveat because I keep a lot of tube receivers and some transmitters around not for the purpose of EMP, but just because I love old radios and I love tubes, right? I have a whole collection of Zenith transoceanic radios. Those are by and large my most favorite tube radio. They're portable sets. They run on 120 volts. They're transformerless, so you have a hot chassis, okay? A chassis that's not isolated from the mains. And then what happens is, boom, you're kind of, you touch that while it's plugged in the wrong way and you could get a nasty shock, okay? Then what happens too is tube electronics are great, okay? They're a little more and Mars and field into play. Thank you, little one-on-one to okay, thank you for the super chat. Thank you very much. And that's really amazing stuff. Thank you. So yeah, so anyway, they're still vulnerable. They're just a little less so, but you still should shield them, right? I don't, I tend to go 50-50. Now, the thing about them is that some tube sets may have solid state devices which are vulnerable, like diodes, right? Now, the really old electronics had selenium rectifiers, which were, they were rectifiers made of selenium, which is a very toxic compound. And if one of those things burned out, it would make a very nasty smell. Okay, the thing would smell like burned rubber tires. Okay, and it's really bad. I had one of those go out in a Zenith transoceanic radio, and it just it was killing me. So I replaced that with a silicon diode, and of course the silicon diode being much more efficient, it produced a higher voltage. So I kind of had to put a couple of them in series to drop the voltage enough. But yeah. But the thing about tube electronics is they're hollow state, they're bigger. They have a lot more area, a lot more volume that you need to shield, right? And then, if you're doing that, then, you're going to need a bigger can or a bigger Faraday cage, or you're going to need to bury it or something. You're going to put that in a metal fortress, How are you going to do that? So, I think at that point we're going to get carried away. But, a lot of testing has been done. Let's talk vehicles, because I know a lot of people think that that EMPs are basically, it's going to be the monsters are due on Maple Street. Okay, and you watch that Twilight Zone episode where people's cars start working, and then neighbors basically go neck and neck to each other. It's kind of happening now with the gas prices. People are going to each other's necks, and one of them blaming Brandon and another one blaming the oil companies, So, it's kind of like, and I blame Putin, okay? Yeah, that's true if it has a vacuum tube. And a lot of these are mercury vapor rectifiers. Some of the really high voltage ones were mercury vapor. So, yeah. And, excuse me. As if there's no rectifier tube. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, a lot of them, later on they kind of got hybrid. So, yeah, vehicles now, basically people think that an EMP is going to take out their vehicles. Well, you want to know something? If you have a diesel, and I don't mean like these modern computerized diesel where you flip a switch and roll coal, okay? We're talking about a real old school diesel, like the one my dad has, with no computers in the engine, nothing, okay? Pure mechanical diesel will be much less susceptible to an EMP, okay? Because for one, it does not have the coil on plug. It does not have a lot of those electronics that some of these have, and even the old gas cars with points, plug, distributor, and stuff like that will fare a lot better. And carburetor, I mean, since like in the United States, actually my car in 1993 though did not have a computerized engine. It was a carburetor engine, and then later on I got a Honda Civic with a computerized engine, a Honda Civic Si, Japanese domestic model. So The thing about a diesel, though, a diesel is a very interesting kind of vehicle to have. They don't have spark plugs, they just have glow plugs. A bonus to them is that you can use biofuels. Okay, so, when Rudolf Diesel developed the diesel engine, his whole thought was that, yes, I'll develop this for farmers where they can grow their own fuel, okay? And then they can just, burn that as diesel. And, it'll be very self-sufficient. And I still think that is good. Wait till the government gets a hold and starts to tax that, though. Electric and hybrids, it's kind of probably a given that they're gonna have a little more problems. Although, I don't know. No testing has been done on those, but there has been testing done by the government, and they found that basically 1 out of 5 cars will fail. Okay, I think it's 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 10, so it's a low number, right? It's probably not a lot. So I think this is not really going to be, too much of a problem. Hi, Jason. Nice to see you. I also saw Ham Radio 2.0. Hi, good evening to you there, Jason. Nice to see you around. And, yeah, my Tesla just get charged. Probably blow up the battery. So what about our, oh my God, K5YVY. Man, you are just awesome tonight. Thank you. K5YVY. Taxes came in. Wow. I haven't even done my taxes yet, I'm like debating how to do my taxes because I need to, to figure out a few things with my taxes. You miss your Harley chopper, huh? Yeah, good old cocktail. I'll let you in yet. Oh man. Okay. Yeah, there was actually a video of a guy running a car in a wood gasifier. Okay. Actually, it was a pickup truck. He had like a whole thing in the truck bed, and that kind of really helped. Jason, thank you for the super sticker. I think you're the very first one to give me a super sticker. Thank you. That's really amazing. Thank you. Yeah, I'll probably talk to Kat, but then I don't know. It's kind of funny. I usually use TurboTax, and I use TurboTax Home and Business because I have to put in a few 1099s and such like that. All right, so the power grid. The power grid is vulnerable, and in a lot of my partnership with EcoFlow, what I've been talking to. So I talked to a lot of our customers, and they have been kind of just concerned about blackouts and grid damage and such like that. And I've seen a lot of customers in Puerto Rico. So in Puerto Rico, they have a very rickety old power grid. Okay, that's not been maintained. I mean, they have government corruption down there that basically kills it for them. Their power company has basically not invested in the grid over many years. They still burn oil to generate electricity. One of the very few places in the United States that does that. Okay, that's to tell you how old they are. So a lot of people are looking to get off of the grid and become independent, right? Thank you, Michael. Wow, you guys are awesome tonight. I feel so blessed. Thank you, Michael. It's really nice. Thank you. Yeah, she could set up her own site, but yeah, I don't know. She needs to do some things. So, most people, when they think of preparation, they think one of these, right? What's gonna happen? You spend all your taxes in my stream. I'm going to review in these super chats, and when I do the 10K live stream, which is coming soon, you guys are going to be up for some stuff, okay? Some people think that how this is your backup plan, right? I mean, really? I have 2 gasoline generators, okay? but the gasoline generator has a problem, namely that it can pretty much, let me see if I have the next one. This is the problem with a gas generator, okay? Now, it's still good to have one, okay? And I'm not saying don't have one. I'm saying don't have it as your only plan, okay? But if power is off, we saw it here at Hurricane Sandy. The gas pumps don't run. They're very vulnerable to supply chain issues, meaning, shipping and all that stuff. Gasoline goes bad. I mean, it turns to gum, right? And generally, I tell people when they shut off the generator, open the side panel, turn the little carb screw, and drain out all the petrol from inside of it. And then we're seeing $4 a gallon here, okay? I mean, I'll be spending all the super chat money on gasoline if I were to run a gas generator, okay? Hurricane Sandy in 2012 was amazingly, I spent 2 hours in line lining up for gasoline, okay? But we're going to talk about solar panels, so, we're going to talk about solar panels shortly. So, let's see here. Well, if you insist on having a generator, talk to Hank Hill, okay? He's got propane and propane accessories. Propane doesn't go bad, right? I have a 500-gallon propane tank and buried in my backyard. And you can buy 1,000-gallon tanks. So these tanks, you can get them in sizes up to 1,000 gallons, residential tanks, right? You can store up to 80% of the tank capacity because you must leave room at the top for expansion. And what happens is the propane is stored as a liquid and it turns into a vapor, and then the vapor will then be dispensed as a gas into your system. I use propane as one of my heating systems, right? I also have wood and electric. And then I use it for a dryer and also for cooking. Okay? So, yeah. And, if you store 800 gallons, or, you could go for 400 hours straight, because most generators, even the biggest generators, they draw like half a gallon an hour, right? And if you own a tank, you'll get a lot cheaper. So that's one way to do it. Dual or tri-fuel, some of them, they can run on gas, they can run on propane, they can run natural gas. So if you have like a barbecue hookup, you can hook that up too, right? I know for a lot of people this is old hat, but some people actually didn't know this. I don't like stockpiling. So what I have now is I have a battery generator, and you might have seen some of my other live streams, right? So I will admit, and yes, some people are going to say, well, this is not EMP proof. Yes, it's one of my backup plans. Okay. You can't put a big gas generator in a trash can Faraday cage, right? This one probably wouldn't fit, the big EcoFlow Delta Pro. You can expand this up to almost 30 kilowatt hours, right? And, you could recharge it from AC power. You can recharge it from, yes, that's true, Jesse, and we're getting to that. You can charge from AC power. You can recharge from 12, 24 volt cigarette lighter. 24 volt, you find that in a truck. You could recharge up to solar, up to 1,600 watts, right, for this. You recharge from an EV charging station. So let's say power goes out in your area, but, some of your nearby still has power. You can go to an EV charging station and you can actually go and recharge this thing. So I want to see if I can show you. Let's see here. If I can show you this thing. So, right? And, yeah. So I actually had this hooked up to an EV charging station today. I went testing this. I had this hooked up. No, actually, this is my Tesla charging station. that's hooked up to right now. Okay? You're going to see some classified stuff there too. Make sure my laptop does. Oh, this is probably going to get hairy. Okay, yeah. So I have the EV charging and I have the Tesla charger there, right? And that's pulling from my Tesla charger. You can connect this to public Tesla chargers. This is a different charger. This is from a public Volta charger, and this basically is from, you find these at shopping malls and such like that, and it's basically free electricity, right? I just plug that in and it's charging. Okay, you have carry there charging.
Okay.
So, yep. Okay. All right. So, Arnold Grubbs, you should do a spreadsheet to know if your generator will support your fridge and freezer. Not 100%, also big enough. That's true. Yes. I found that, so there's actually something else that I use to estimate my power usage. It's called Sense, right? If you've ever heard of Sense, it's basically a whole home power monitor, and you can actually, I want to show you it here. So, let me see here. It'll tell you, yeah. Screen share here, right. Let me get you the web browser. There we go. Okay. So this is Sense here, right? Sense basically tells me how much my power consumption is at the moment and what am I doing, in terms of power consumption. And tells me historical power consumption trends and lots of data and artificial intelligence and such like that. See. Hey, Digital Dreamer, nice to see you. Yeah. Yeah. So, right. And then it looks at my devices here. You see here my electricity costs. You see the circulator pump is basically the heat for the house. Drinking water heater is in a little water dispenser I have. The fridge, so I'm telling you, the fridge really doesn't draw a lot of power. The fridge draws 135 watts. And historically, it does about $31 a year, which is about how many kilowatt hours? Per day, about 0.8. Oh no, I had it actually half the day. So about a kilowatt hour a day, It's really not that much. 1 to 2 kilowatt hours a day. So you can actually run this on a portable generator, for a portable solar battery for like a couple days. Let's see, drinking water cooler here, electric vehicle. Now, Sense kind of misread my electric vehicle, but I spent $15 on charging this month. I don't charge every day. I charge at work sometimes too. And you see, induction cooktop, microwave oven, rice cooker, septic pump, the well pump. You see, so the well pump. Some of these things don't really use a lot of electricity. You learn a lot about power budgets when you have insights like this, right? So this is another thing to do. This is not just an app, by the way. This is something you install on your panel. And what it does is it has 2 current transformers, which are like 2 clamps that hook around the main input of your electric panel. And you could also have others that hook into your solar inverter. So what this will do is this will measure the current coming in to your house. And then it uses some technology, some artificial intelligence and machine learning to basically brain freeze, some artificial intelligence machine learning to determine what devices are using power at that moment. Okay, so you have, right now I have the circulator pump, which is the heat. You have the fridge, and then always on is my vampire load. I still can't figure out what that is. I figure it's some UPSs and stuff like that I have running. And then I cut down, this vampire load used to be 900 watts. I cut that straight down. Other things, that I have running. I think one of that is my PC. Okay, so yeah. And Sense Labs, it tells you power quality here, dips or spikes. But generally, though, the cooperative has been very good with that. I actually have some dips and spikes because I was working on the electric panel and I had to shut off power. Rosie, thank you very much, Rosie. I love you, Rosie. That's nice. Super sticker. Thank you. So let's see here. Fridges can run an hour or so and coast for several if you don't open the door. Yes, you might have peaks. That's true. That's true. And for freezers, if you keep some water inside of them, you can basically have that basically coast, like when power went out, I kind of like kept some water, some frozen water in there. Let's see, meter devices. Okay, so let me go back to the other stuff here. Yeah. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are so awesome. Thank you. All right. Go back to me here. And let's see. Get my screen back here. I really should put another scene for this for this Keynote since I use Keynote. Yeah. So but anyway, so the Delta Pro is one solution. I also have, this is my new favorite thing here. This is the Delta Mini. What I was talking about, the generators that could fit inside of a trash can. This one could fit inside a trash can, okay? And this one, you could put that down and cover that down and be safe. You talk about solar panels, right? Yeah, solar panels are big things. Oops. Solar panels are big things that, that are giant EMP antennas, sure. I hedge my bets with them. I have solar, outside. I have solar outside, right? And then I basically use that as my regular emergency backup. So if hurricanes and such comes or whatever, I'm going to have it permanently mounted. It's a DIY project I'll probably be doing some stuff on. But solar panels used to be big things. I remember in Epcot Center when they had a whole energy exhibit powered by Exxon, of all companies. What are they doing with solar panels, right? Yeah, these big things run a roof. Well, this is 100 watts, okay? And I'm sure you see Chuck and those guys have one of these on their thing. And, this could also fit in your trash can, okay? I didn't get the new Mac yet. You know what it is? It's the order is in. I'm just waiting for it to ship. It's out of stock, and they kind of like they're talking March or April, and it's March already. So yeah. Let's see here. Yeah. So if I have 4 battery banks with solar panels, the only thing that's subject to EMPs is my DC to AC inverters. Here's another thing. One, I saw this on LDS Prepper. Okay, I'm not Mormon, but these guys are invested in self-sufficiency, right? And for good reason. But LDS Prepper is a very interesting YouTube channel. He was talking about how you have to make a choice whether you want to keep your electronics on AC or you want to do DC. So I kind of hedge my bets a little bit. I actually have a good few DC powered things. Right, I always have DC power plugs for my laptops, and now it's easy because you have USB Type-C. So I could plug that into a cigarette lighter, right? I could plug that into anything. And I have one that's 100 watts, right? Yeah, Rosie, yeah, they take forever. What it is the chip shortage and such like that, and it's just ridiculous. So right now I'm just using my my old Mac with an external monitor. It's kind of terrible. But, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so the EcoFlow Delta Pro actually is lithium iron phosphate. The smaller ones are actually, unfortunately, NMC, but that makes them lighter and smaller. And to be honest, if you cycle them, if you're prudent with cycling, they'll last a long time. I get a few off-brand units sometimes. This one I have to do a review on, actually. This one called Smartless. Smartless. Why do they call it Smartless? I know, this guy. Yeah. Yeah. Apple always keeps a 1 terabyte computer in stock, $200 more. Yeah. Well, I ordered the 1 terabyte one. It's just they don't have it. They only have the big expensive $4,000 one, which I don't want. You know, I want some cheaper because I don't need all that, power. But yeah. So believe it or not, by the way, the thing that's keeping me alive tonight is I switched the encoding on OBS to X264 versus the Apple VT hardware encryption because apparently, and I noticed I've been watching Max Fan Control. Max Fan Control is a nice app that tells you how your Mac is doing thermally. I actually I set it, first of all, I set the fans to full blast. So the fans are going. You might hear it in the background. But I noticed the CPU core temperature at 100 degrees centigrade Celsius, it will shut down. And right now it's around 80 degrees. Steve Jobs didn't like, Steve Jobs used to get a coronary every time he heard a MacBook fan spin up. He wanted his computer to be silenced. Yeah. Yeah, right? But the other one I posted on my channel recently was, what was it? Lossage batteries. Loss of energy. Okay? So anyway, right. So let's see how we could go along. We're going to get to talking about radio in a few minutes. Okay? Yeah, let's talk about radio. So, everybody loves to hate on Baofeng. Okay? I've got a newfound appreciation for Baofeng. I used to be a big Baofeng hater. But I think they've really done, opened up their act. They cleaned up their act, and that's good on them. I've actually been talking with a couple of people from the Baofeng company, and they've kind of been, interested in cleaning up stuff. They introduced one called the GT5R, which got the spurious emissions down to a decent level, right? But I definitely think that you shouldn't limit yourself to ham radio, okay? I like ham radio. I eat, sleep, breathe, drink, and I don't think I do anything else with ham radio, right? And I still have a CB radio at home, okay? I still have a GMRS radio and a GMRS license, okay? And I have MERS radios, okay? Reason for that is that sometimes I may need to communicate with unlicensed people, like my neighbors, okay? Like, unfortunately, my kids, until they get their license, right? They're getting their license. They're working on it. They yeah. So, they kind of, you might need to communicate with unlicensed people. And these radio services have their uses. The CB radio is actually pretty good. Around here, you would not believe the amount of cars that have CB antennas on them, okay? And, it's not just it's not just like the off-road, Jeeple, okay? It's not just the Jeeple, right? It is people with ordinary cars, they have it on there because I always tell, people I'm talking to on the phone when I'm going home, I said, I'm driving through the cell phone valley of death and I fear no bars, okay? Because there's no bars on my phone, right? And I'm driving through the cell phone valley of death, the shadow of the cell phone valley of death, okay? Because literally within 3 miles of my house, there's really not much of a cell phone signal. And I like it that way, okay? Because I want a nice low noise environment. But I kind of just, you want to be able to communicate, right? So a lot of people, they went with CB radios. They have the CB radios there, and they put in their cars, and they use it to keep in touch with family. Ham radios. So the Baofengs, I have a few favorite Baofengs. My Baofeng of choice. I like the GT5R for ham, right? But I've been, I've been kind of like testing a few others, and I'm gonna have a few videos where I put some of them on the spectrum analyzer. Because I have quite a bit of a collection. Basically, I've been getting some, there is one on 220 that I'm testing right now. It seems kind of promising, I gotta see here. Let's see here. Yeah, I kind of wish that, comments are covering me up. Anyway, I kind of wish that they would push the FCC to allow people to. Yeah, you know, it kind of is like that. Yeah, it probably would be a good idea. Here's a problem right now. Okay, the problem is that, I mean, you know, and please don't shoot the messenger. Okay, there's only so much juice that, you know, that an organization has with the FCC. Okay, you want to use that prudently. And right now, there's so many things sitting at the FCC that we want to take care of before before they address additional things, right? And it's just so frustrating and so hard that they've just sat on things for almost a decade now. So, you know, that, I think that is definitely a good idea. The problem is, I could see, is that the FCC is now going to say, well, you know, how are we going to enforce it for non-licensees and such like that? So, you know, but I think it's a good idea. Let's see here. How hot it is in your room? Yeah, it's the middle of winter, right? Okay. You can, but you know, I think it voids the certification once it does, you know. But I just keep multiple radios anyway, because more radios are good. More radios are good. So, yeah. All right. So, let's see here now. Okay. Yeah, so the CB radio gives you some good wide area coverage, and now the FCC has no limitations on DXing. You can talk as far as you want. Previously, the FCC used to say, well, you know, you couldn't work beyond a certain distance. They basically threw away those regulations because they realized that it's nonsense. A bigger advantage of CB and GMRS, though, is that you can listen to the truckers, okay? Especially with CB, because the truckers seem to have their whole intelligence network. And I really mean that. The truckers, they're out there on the roads, they're seeing what's going on, and they talk about it on the radio, right? So once they talk about it, you'll know what's going on. GMRS is good because they're consumer grade, and one license covers the whole family. Now, this is unconfirmed. I've heard rumors, and you know, this isn't exactly fully official yet. I've heard rumors that the fee is going to change, that the fees are coming in April, probably close to the end of April. This was something provided by a source who is close to the FCC. It's not an ARRL source, okay? So I wouldn't say that, but there is somebody who has basically said that in some public circles out on the in Washington. You know, that's coming in April. I don't know how true that is, but in any case, the side effect of that is, even though hams will have to pay fee to renew or do anything with their licenses except change their address and name, what's going to happen is the GMRS fee is now going to drop to $35. And I think at that point, everybody should get one. Okay? You get one. And I know that when SHTF, that nobody's going to need a license, and the government's too busy fighting war, and the government's too... Look, I totally get that, okay? At the same time, during normal time, you need to be able to practice. You need to be able to drill. This is why I tell people, if you're getting into ham radio, don't, you know, if you want to get ham radios for prepping, for SHTF, or Tiautwaki, okay? Yes. Tiautwaki is the end of the world as we know it, okay? I'll spell it out for you. You see, TEOTWAWKI, right? The end of the world as we know it, okay? And, you know, you really should get some practice when the world isn't ending, right? Because you don't know that thing. There is no test for GMRS, Ron. It's no test. The test is, which credit card should I use that gives me the most miles or points? Okay? Yeah. So the end of the world as we know it, and I don't want a copyright strike, so I'm not going to sing it. But you should get a license and practice during normal times, okay? And it's good to practice with, right? FRS is good too, right? You can practice with that. FRS is really not bad, but it's short range. I have some FRS radios that I'm actually reviewing right now. I'm testing. And a lot of FRS radios are good for a couple blocks. So you could probably give some to your neighbors, right? And then your neighbors can talk to you. But the good thing about circling back to GMRS license is that one license covers your entire family. Okay? Not your household, your family. So, for example, I could get a license, and then my brother, who lives in New London, Connecticut, he can just, get them. And then when I'm near him, if I go visit him and go hang out in the park or something, he's going to be like, well, yeah, we could get radios and talk to each other. So, yeah. Smoking ape, okay. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry I'm slow, okay. I'm just happy everything not crashing tonight, okay. So, I have a good stream for once, yeah. So anyway, Ape still has. I never seen Ape on one. No, wait, I have seen Ape on one of my live streams. I think Ape is probably busy tonight. And this is the thing, okay? Get a tech license, okay? And get it before the fee comes into effect. I'm telling people, cram, okay? My friend Mark Klein, N5ZHR, this book, he has a cheap book, okay? Where you basically have all the correct answers in there. You cram it, and then you go in. Of course, I love to teach people the material. And, I do have a project where I'm teaching people the material. Can't talk too much about it now. But, if you quickly want to get a tech license, by all means, by any means necessary, okay? And then you learn as you go. Of course, I have no problem teaching people knowledge, and I encourage people to use the knowledge, right? Yeah. So, let's see here. Now I jinxed it. Did I? What did I jinx? Okay. Everything's going good, hopefully. Cross fingers. Okay. Yeah. Right. So, the thing about ham is that if you have a tech license, you have, even though you don't have the full privileges of a general or extra, you do have everything on VHF and above. You have the ability to talk on satellites, okay? Although for emergency communications, I don't necessarily see what these FM satellites, you're going to be exchanging grid squares, maybe. But you have the ability to talk on repeaters. You have the ability to talk on local VHF simplex. You have the ability to talk on VHF and UHF sideband. And VHF, UHF sideband is kind of like, long distance communications, right? And when the atmospherics are right, you can definitely go a long way. You could talk on 10 meters with cycle 25, solar cycle 25 ramping up. It's going to be really good. So the tech license is good. And you could learn Morse code. My friends at Long Island CW Club or CW Ops, or if you want to do LCWO, sure. You can then communicate on a regular HF band. So, Adi, you will pass if you study. Okay? So anyway, yeah. Getting ready for extra. Yeah. This week I'm actually going to be at a school talking to a group of students. So, it's going to be really nice. Really happy to talk to them. We're trying to get them set up with a ham station. And Sussex County Charter School for Technology. They're a local school in my area, and we did an IRIS contact. I'm going to have some of them on the show. Probably not on this show, but probably a special live stream, and we're going to be talking about how that whole thing went down and what we're doing. So, all right. Okay. And let me see what else I got here. So one other thing, good antennas and such I have too, because a radio is only as good as there's antennas, right? Thank you, Theo. I really love it. And it's growing. Hey, K2RFK, nice to see you. Okay, yeah. So, let's talk antennas, right? So you could kind of go with the stock antenna, the rubber duck on your Candy Talkie, or you could have something in your backpack, in your bag, that gives you a little more range. Ed Fong, he makes a good set of antennas, and I have a couple of them here I got at a Hamfest that I'm going to be showing on the channel that we are in the process of testing out, and they're actually constructed really well. One of them is in a pipe that, you supply your own pipe. They supply all the hardware and stuff like that. And I'll show you like this. I'll show you this here. So it's basically, and there's another one that sits in a bag that's that's roll up, and you just keep that, and you could hang that up in a tree. You could hang that up on a window, and you have better than the original handheld rubber ducky. So I will have full reviews of that antenna, because I have two of them I'm actually that I got that I'm going to be testing out and showing you guys. Okay. And thank you, Digital Dreamer. Yes, I really do appreciate all the likes and super chats and all the subscribers and such like that. I really appreciate this. Thank you. It's really nice. Egg McMuffins. Okay. You could have some of my McDonald's reward points. I have like 30,000 points that I just can't use. It's a different story. But anyway, another thing you need to have in your kit, right? So, in Ukraine, they're talking about, and thank you very much, Country Fried Vegan. Thank you. You are awesome for the super sticker. Critical hit. Nice. Yeah, so, in Ukraine, sadly, Vladimir Putin destroyed their TV tower. Okay? So basically the idea, and he's basically turning Russia into North Korea right now, right? He's blocking out all of the independent media. And yeah, by the way, yes, you can order from Dr. Fung roll-up J-pole extra coax to hoist up in a tree. And I'll tell you, these antennas are made by his students, and it's used to fund his students' educational programs, so it's to go into a good cause. Okay, Ed's antennas. If you look for Ed's antennas on Google, I'm going to probably update the description and stuff with all of that. But my friend Kai Chen from KB Cubed, right? If you look for KB Cubed, they have a lot of, they have a lot of these Ed Fong antennas in stock. So Kai, Kai is a really good guy. I like to support him at the Hamfest. He's always supporting the local Hamfest. And, he's a distributor for Ed's antennas. You can also get them from Grapevine and Amateur Radio, which is Ham Radio 2.0. Jason stocks them as well. So you can get them from there as well, and support Jason, and of course, his awesome YouTube content and the support for all the YouTubers like me. Okay? So, yeah, so you have many places to do it, and they always do a good cause. But anyway, yeah, so Putin has been destroying all of the media in Ukraine. And so what has happened is the BBC has ramped up its shortwave broadcasting. There was one American broadcaster, I think it might have been either World Harvest Radio or one other broadcaster that has basically started to air Radio Ukraine programming on shortwave now. And there are a couple others that are beaming more shortwave to Ukraine. So one thing that you definitely want to have in your kit is a shortwave radio. Now, I would definitely recommend that you get a shortwave radio with single sideband. The reason you want one with single sideband, if you watch Ham Radio, not Ham Radio 2.0, Ham Radio Crash Course last night, he was showing you a lot of things you receive on the web SDRs, and a lot of what you see, you hear. But with single sideband, you can actually hear that on your radio. You could hear ham radio operators if you're not a ham. You can hear a lot of military communications. You can hear a lot of other things on that, okay? Single sideband. But a trick about single sideband that you might not know is that it's also very good at receiving AM broadcasts that are very weak. The reason is that an AM broadcast has a carrier wave in it, right? And the carrier wave basically is greatly diminished as, with distance, right? Because obviously radio waves can't propagate forever. They will go off the edge of the earth. So I learned this from a little Radio Shack book that I had when I was a kid, that if you use the beat frequency oscillator, if you turn on single sideband and you use it to receive an AM signal, it is possible to recover more of that AM double sideband signal than you would normally have with a regular AM receiver. Okay? So yeah, while I did review that radio, that one does not have single sideband. I do think I'm going to be getting one with single sideband that I'm going to be showing. But some consumer handy talkies, especially the Kenwoods, the Kenwood THF6A and also the Kenwood D74 have single sideband built in, so you can use that. So that's an important item to have in your emergency kit. Okay. Now, finally, consider your needs to communicate. There are some situations where you want to stay silent. You want to lay low. And an important point that I heard also on Ham Radio Crash Course last night, which I agree with, was don't use a lot of power if you don't have to. Because two reasons, okay? If you're on HF or VHF, UHF, number one is that if you give away your position, right, you could compromise your operational security. That's number one. Number two is that if you're running on batteries or you're running on a generator with fuel, and yes, even if you're running on a generator fuel, you don't want to use up all your power transmitting a loud radio signal that you don't have to. So this means turn off the amplifier, or in the radio, if you're communicating just with your neighbors, turn down the power to low and, save your battery, okay? And this way you're not wasting the little bit of power you have. You would not believe. I've been doing testing with some of the EcoFlow units, running my ham radios, and 100 watts consumes about 250. Okay? And that will wear down my battery quickly. Digital Dreamer. Yeah. I think that misspelling kind of got you caught there. Good reason to learn CW. Yes. And CW don't need a computer like FT8. So that's a good catch. Okay? Now, just a few more things. Essential skills. We talk about being a Radio McGuyver. Okay? Learn how to solder. Okay? Yeah, I'm finishing up this kit. We're going to have some live streams or recorded with this kit that I'm finishing up. I was just waiting on a few parts. Right? Learn how to solder. Learn the rough lengths of a dipole antenna or similar. Right? You'll find that actually now you probably don't even need to do that, but it's good to remember, good to remember the lengths of a dipole antenna for popular ham radio bands. Or you could get one of these tapes that's sold by Radio Waves or whoever that has like the lengths of a dipole, but it's good to remember. Learn how to operate a manual tuner. Okay, so a manual tuner, you hook that up to any object and radiate, like grain gutters and stuff like that. A lot of these YouTubers have the I know. A lot of these YouTubers run a will it antenna video. It's hilarious, but actually it's an essential, survival skill. Yeah. Yes, SSB is good on your batteries. Yes, that's a good point. Yeah. All right. And then learn how to join wires without solder. I think I'm going to show you another video with that. I don't want to go too long tonight, but you join wires without solder. So that's an important skill to have. Tools that you must have. You could have a gas-powered soldering iron. I think I have one here. I might have one on the table. I don't want to jinx it, but Harbor Freight sells one. Joe Eisenberg put me onto that, and I wish I could find it. But basically, it runs on butane, right? So you keep a small. Here it is. A small supply of the bastard gas, the butane, right? And then you could just you could turn it on and it, it warms up, right? Yeah, it's getting warm already. Okay. And you could use this to solder. Okay. Antenna analyzer. You know, I love the Rig Expert, and Rig Expert's nice because you're supporting Ukraine. And, you know, I love my Rig Expert analyzers, and much love to Rig Expert in Ukraine. Power pole crimpers as well, because you want to make sure you have the power poles. And also spade terminal crimpers, because you will have to deal with spade terminals as well. All right, and with that, on that bombshell, my friends, we must end. Thank you all for a wonderful live stream tonight. I'd like to thank all of you and my wonderful 10,000 plus subscribers. I never knew this channel would be getting so far. I really appreciate it. Of course, spread the word. Thank you very much. We're going to have our 10K live stream soon. I just have to put everything together with that. I really want to get that up for you guys. You know, thank you very much. What can I say? 73, peace in 73s. Pray for peace. You know, pray for world peace. If you don't believe in God, that's okay. Just have peace in your mind, in your hearts and minds. So, you know, all right. 73, y'all. I'll see you later.